astronauts to the moon.
Ignition sequence start. 3, 2, 1.
Houston, we have a problem.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue.
What you're seeing here is a mirage.
What's going on, everyone? It's Jaron from Jeranism back with another live video for you today. Thank you so much for joining me. It's Thursday, so I usually have a presentation or an interview, and we're supposed to have Iro on today for part 4 of the NASA Bluebeam project, but Iro isn't feeling that great, so we hope he feels better soon. Hope to see him tomorrow for the lounge. Instead, today we have to thank my guest for moving up a week. He's supposed to be on next week, but he took today's slot, which I really appreciate. He's a friend of the show and a channel of the channel. I often see him in the chat, and him and I talk occasionally on Skype, and today he's joining me for a little talk about life, really, the world we live in, and of course about his book, which is called The Spiral Life, an introduction to personal elevation through conscious health and wellness. He is Josh Brown. Josh, what's up, my friend?
Hey, Jaron, what's up, man?
How are you? Glad you're here.
Yeah, dude, it's an absolute pleasure. I really appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks for moving up a week. Like I said, I really appreciate that, and it'll be good to have Iro back when he gets back. But thought we could talk today. I do appreciate, like I said, you are always in the chat. I see you often, and appreciate you sending me the book. I guess you sent me that back last year. It must have been right before the conference because I remember reading it on the plane. So,
yeah, it was a couple months before the conference, I think.
Yeah. So really appreciate it. It's a great book, and we'll talk about that. But go ahead and let people know a little bit about yourself and, you know, what made you decide to write this book. But I guess we could just start with a little bit about yourself.
All right, and thanks again for having me. And it'll be nice to have Iro back. He's always great to listen to.
Yeah, he's awesome.
And if anyone wants to give him shit about his accent, it's just like, okay, what second language do you know? So
that's what I always say too.
That's what I like to tell people.
Yeah. Good luck having me try and speak Spanish on another channel, or
yeah.
And you know, it's always amazes me. In fact, it amazes me everyone from different countries that English is their second language. They do so well.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna say shit about it. So
yeah. Okay, but anyways, yeah. So I've always been kind of a free thinker and questioning pretty much everything. So that's just kind of led me to where I am, but I've always also been super into creative type stuff. So I've always played guitar and made music. So I've always had kind of in the back of my mind writing down some of my thoughts to share, but I never really, it's not that I didn't think I would write a book. It's just I thought I would do other stuff first. Like if you would have asked me 10 years ago if I would, record an album or write a book first, what would I do? And it would be, oh yeah, I'd record an album for sure. But that hasn't happened, but I do have a book. So
well, writing a book is not easy, and it's something that I talked about doing. I don't know if it was 2 years ago or whatever, and I sat down and I kept getting to the point where I don't know if I'm too critical of myself, but it's just something that isn't easy. I think in your book you called it analysis paralysis. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that was my issue is that, and that's something you have to get over. And it's why making videos is a hard thing to do because you constantly are critiquing yourself. It's why I've kind of navigated a little bit more to the live streaming because it is what it is when you do a live stream.
Exactly.
There is no way for me to say I hate that. I wish that I would change this or change that. It's just it is what it is. So live streaming is kind of relieve my analysis paralysis because there's not a lot of way to do it. If I don't like this interview that we do today, it's tough shit. It's up there. It's
not
on my
much room
channel.
for overthinking.
No, there's not a lot of room. So I want to show people real quick your YouTube channel, and I know that you don't have quite too many videos. You only have 3, but
yeah.
I suggest to people if you like the content that we talk about today, if you think that you would enjoy the book, obviously purchase the book. It's not expensive. I think it's $12.99. At a few places that you can get it, and you can get it on his website with an autograph from the author, which is cool. And then you can also get it from Amazon and Barnes & Noble. So just showing you real quick, this is his channel. So I suggest if people want to scroll down in the description of the YouTube video and find the link to his YouTube, go ahead and subscribe. He says you're going to be doing some more videos, right?
Yeah, that's definitely my intention is to do a few more because I've got notes upon notes of little ideas and thoughts and stuff. If we were doing a video right now, you'd probably laugh at my desk because it's just
it's probably like
handwritten
mine.
notes. It's crazy. It's like having one note, except it's old school OneNote, and there's paper everywhere.
Well, I still use both. I still use OneNote, but at the same time, I have spiral binder after spiral binder, not
Yeah.
binder, but spiral notepad. I'm always writing. It's something I've even tried to get away from. I tried to purchase what was it called? A Surface Go a while ago so that I could write with like a digital pen, and I could never get into it. I just love paper and pen too much.
Oh,
so
man,
anyway,
I do too. And that's how I did the majority of my book, is I would get up early and just write. And it was not only just the free flow of thought, but it was something about physically writing my thoughts on paper.
Right.
I think whenever I type, it's too easy to backspace and rewrite.
Right.
And so I overthink way too much whenever I'm typing, but man, that free flow writing, I'm still a huge fan.
Yeah, so this is his channel. So like I said, scroll down, become a subscriber if you're interested. He did a good video, spiral immunity on the coronavirus, and he's done a couple other videos, but definitely check that out. He says he's going to be doing a few more videos. And on the screen now, I'm also showing his book just so people can see that you're able to get it if you like the content today or if you think you might enjoy it. I think you'll enjoy it. It's a great read. It's an easy read. And, today I was also looking, if we scroll down here on Amazon, to some great, and these are verified purchases from Amazon customer reviews. So we'll read this one real quick. This person, Jocelyn Bates, said, "A book that touches on all cornerstones of healthy living in a deceptively simple yet well-rounded way. The book reads like a TED Talk. It's full of information. I suggest you sit with each chapter and allow the words to penetrate. The author has taken the idea of a spiral, physically, emotionally, spiritually, and translated it into a lifestyle and a mode of internal reflection that can help you reach your personal health and wellness goals. It's a super easy read, and you can almost hear the author speaking the words as you go. It's deceptively simple for such a power punch of information. I particularly enjoyed the idea of excess and moderation and excess. I had never heard it explained in such simple terms, and it totally made sense. Being an arts therapist, I also enjoyed the concept of the chapters on play, relationships, and creativity. I feel like the author brought big concepts on thoughts, ideas, and words that anyone can relate to, understand, and use. Thank you." And there's some other on here if people want to read the other ones, but just thought that one was good, and it kind of encompassed how I felt about the book. It's one of those books that you read one chapter and it kind of leads into the next, and you never get bored. Like, well, let me look ahead. What's coming? That's how some books are for me, where I'm reading and I'll be midway through chapter 2 and I'll start looking ahead. Like, what's chapter 3? What's chapter 4? Because I'm bored. But this isn't a book like that at all, where you'll just kind of read and it just flows one chapter into the next. And then this is the Barnes & Noble. And again, both these links are in the description. And Barnes & Noble looks like it includes free shipping, so that's great for only $12.99 for the paperback. So it's great. And I love to promote people that are doing good things for the world, and I think this book is one of those things. It's something that I've tried to do in my life is, better myself. And, you talk about it a lot, but basically improving ourselves, upgrading ourselves, balancing yourself, and I think that's all important. So, but to start off, I guess, I want to talk a little bit about your personal life. You're married, correct?
Yeah, I've been married for, 13 years. 13 years in January.
Congratulations. That's actually an accomplishment in today's world.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And we actually purposely held off on kids for a while. So our two little ones are pretty little. Our oldest one's 3, and the baby actually turned 4 months old today. So.
Oh, congrats. Oh,
thanks,
awesome.
man.
Yeah.
And they're awesome, man. It's crazy. For the longest time, I didn't know if I would want to be a parent.
Right.
And it's just, I know there's all the cheesy cliches that parents say, and parenting is a huge topic of discussion too.
Right.
But it's just what they actually do bring to your life is just kind of unimaginable, because it is definitely hard, and all the stuff I knew was came.
Right.
But a lot of other stuff came with it too. So,
I'm looking forward to it too. My wife is pregnant, and so
yeah, big congrats, man.
Yeah, we should be having one sometime in October, I believe, and so excited about that. And yeah, I have one. Awesome. It's 19, so it's a big break in between for me. But again, same thing. I've been married to Mrs. since 2011, and we purposely waited as well. And so this was by design, and with everything going on in the world, it's a little crazy to think that we're bringing up, but I think children are hope. And so,
big time.
Yeah,
big time,
so
man.
There's no better time, really.
If I can stay out of my kids' way and just let them be them, it's going to be amazing.
Right.
I just got to be some type of guide in the process.
Right. So anyway, I'm showing the about the author from the back of the book, and for people who don't believe me, I don't know. Here's a picture of the book. It's a little dirty. Like I said, it's been through the ringer a little bit.
Hey, that means it's been read.
Right. It's not pristine by any stretch of the imagination. So anyway, this is the interview with the author of The Spiral Life, and I guess we could start by talking a little bit about where you got the idea for the title and what you mean by The Spiral Life. I mean, what does that mean?
Well, it originally came from, you see there, it says Spiral Life Health and Wellness. So that's actually my coaching practice. And that started back in 2015, 2016. And the goal of that was to just coach people on a personal level, just with like diet and exercise, because that was a huge area for me to actually find out truth and get past all the mainstream hype about stuff. And
right,
because I've always struggled with my weight. It's super easy for me to gain weight, and when I'm doing the right things, it's super easy to lose it. So it's kind of a huge reflection of what I'm doing at the moment. So
right.
to figure out what I need to do in the process took a long time, because just like everything else, there's a lot of great information, but a ton of really misleading and incomplete information. So that was what got me into actually wanting to do the coaching, was getting into that and the working out aspect. But I always knew that I didn't want to just leave it there, because I've always been super on the spiritual side, and other stuff just about life, because I feel like I'm not the only one, but I feel like what is lacking that I bring to the table in a majority of situations is vast perspective, and not just finding out something and going with it. So that's really what I try to help people with the majority of the time. So it's like I definitely wanted to help people with the diet and exercise, but I wanted it to be way more than that. So that's kind of where the Spiral Life came. I kind of got the visual of that, and also it's like there are 7 spirals on the cover. It's a 7-pointed star, the 7 colors of the chakra. I just thought that felt like a good number, because this is such overlapping information. It could have been 6 or it could have been 8, but I just felt like all the 7s just kind of were lining up. But yeah, as far as the coaching practice, that came first, and then all the stuff I was thinking about from that is what eventually became the book.
Right. So you do Spiral Life coaching. That's great. And I saw here on your website people can sign up for a free consultation. So if people are interested in that, and you can go to
just get a hold of me, and we can just have a chat about what you're looking for and seeing if you're interested, and just go from there. And it's hard to explain to people, because people are just so used to being told what to do and doing it, and that's not what I do. Mm-hmm. I talk to people about what's going on in their life, and I offer perspective and kind of guidance in whatever works for them. So what I would do for you wouldn't be what I would do for Missa, and it wouldn't be what I'd do for my wife.
Well, that's great, because I reading your book, that's a section that you talk about with exercise and diet plans, how it's kind of this one-size-fits-all kind of diet plan, and you're right. They don't take the individual into account, because it really comes down to each individual person, and it's something that I deal with all the time. People want this cut and dry, easy application to their life, and that's just not the case. You need to look at the things that you need, the things that will make you a better person, the things that will make you grow. And I've talked about it with my own personal health. I mean, I've come so far in the last 5 years with quitting smoking, moving to distilled water, moving to growing my own food, moving to not eating processed foods, to eating healthier. Yeah. All those things are important to me. Getting out and getting exercise, I don't go to the gym, but my wife and I walk. Well, we used to walk once a day. Now, with her being pregnant, we've been walking twice a day. Getting out in the outdoors, getting some sun, working in the backyard. Those are things that are important to me. So I think the book talks a lot about that, is not overwhelming yourself either with, I need to do all these things. Sometimes you have to take these baby steps. And I'm just showing it on the screen now. This is the website. Like I said, there's a nice FAQ here. What is the Spiral Life of Health and Wellness? Is this just another diet exercise program? What does it mean to live the Spiral Life? What are your credentials? I guess you can talk a little bit about that. I didn't talk about that. What are your credentials?
I mean, I've got I got my bachelor's degree in business management from Oklahoma State University, which, I mean, take that as you will.
Right.
But then as far as the nutrition and personal training, I felt like in that area, to be taken seriously by the majority of people, you need to be certified in, plus to like legally practice.
Right.
So I got my health coaching certification from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which is also what led me also to my book, because they also have another course that's totally focused on self-publishing a book. And so that was my opportunity to do that also.
Oh, nice.
But then also I have the personal training certification from ISSA, which I actually just renewed like 2 months ago. So, but other than that, everything else is just comes from personal experience and perspective, because credentials are great and they're also overrated.
Right.
So
Oh, good. I'm
that's
glad
just
you
kind of
said
how
that.
I feel about that. It's like I wanted some credentials, but
Right.
you know, I didn't want to go crazy with it. At some point, you just got to be like, okay, I've got to start helping people.
Yeah, no, it's great. And I think one of the traps that we get into when you worry too much about credentials is if you get too bogged down with everything that you're taught in school, you lose sight of reality. And just reading from page 157 of your book here, talking about narrow-mindedness, and this is something I've pointed out many times, and so has others, but it says, let me just say you will never grow as an individual if you ritualistically refuse to be open to new information or ideas. The act of being narrow-minded is a candid display of egotistical, arrogant hypocrisy and fear. Some people assume they are correct and therefore have no reason to be open to new information. And, you know, I don't remember who it was that I was showing a video of recently that said that, you know, people who think they know the answer to something will never go looking for the answer to those things that they think they know the answer to.
Yeah, definitely. I can't remember who that was either, but I was watching that.
Right. And I mean, it's so true. Because, I mean, this is the problem that we run into, is that these people who think they know the answer to everything, it's just like what's going on, and we'll get into it with what's going on with the coronavirus. But
that was my thought exactly, man. People hear what a doctor says, and they think, oh, it's a doctor. You know, they must be smarter than all you people questioning it.
Exactly. And there's doctors out there, and as soon as you don't say the mainstream, it's the same thing. They've had the same education, but if they say something different than what the accepted norm is, they're immediately considered a quack. So you're only a doctor, not if you have the degree, but if you have the degree and you state the mainstream, that's what makes you an actual doctor. If you don't state the mainstream, you're a quack.
Yeah.
Right.
That's why I've loved Crow and Jason having Andy Kaufman on.
Right.
That was awesome. I've never even thought to look into that, all the things I look into, you know, but it's like the way viruses act and stuff like that, I just really hadn't looked into that. But for that information to come up, it's mind-blowing. And
we have to be open to that. And that's the problem I see with people, is that they simply, I don't know, they simply sit back and listen to everything that they get from the mainstream media, and anything coming from outside that must be false. And it's just, I can't think of a more dumb way to live your life. And I used to be like that. I mean, I got bogged down with work. I got bogged down with what you call, you know, searching after the American dream and falling into debt. I did all that. And I realized what a different person I am today just by reviewing information, thinking about things twice, not believing everything I hear on the news. And that's so important because, and like you said too, I don't have a need to convince people of what the coronavirus is. That's not important to me. What is it? What isn't it? All I know is that there's scare tactics being played. The media needs me to be scared. And, you know, you said it in your recent video that we don't need to know what everything is. Sometimes we can be content in knowing what it isn't, you know?
Right, and that's a huge trap that a lot of us in this community fall into, is we're so focused on what the actual truth is that we lose sight of we're not going to know in most cases what the absolute truth is. So take relief in knowing that you see past the bullshit and you see that it's not what it's stated to be, and just take comfort in knowing that you can actually see that, you know. And if we stumble upon the actual truth of situations, or if certain things are just blatantly revealed, then that's great. But yeah, it's tough too to not, and I still do it too, because you think, man, I've got to, you know, that's got to be coming from somewhere. What's happening? Where's this coming from? Who's doing this? But yeah, I just got to pump the brakes sometimes and just be like,
Right.
Don't need to go there.
No, and you can be happy saying, I'm not going to buy into this. I've been lied to
Yep.
enough by the media, and if I think you said it well when you said if something doesn't make sense, then you need to be able to sit back and say, all right, that doesn't make sense. I'm going to look at other alternatives, and I'm not going to buy into this today. And the whole idea of the virus spreading, like you said, that's debatable. But the idea of fear spreading is not debatable.
No, not at all. That is completely obvious.
Right.
So fast, man. I was shocked how quickly this blew up, because immediately before it even blew up, it didn't pass the gut check. It didn't even need to make it to the mental, like, does this even make sense? It just did not even pass the gut check from the get-go.
No.
And then it just got so obviously ridiculous after that.
No, and it's like, I look at it too, and I'm like, okay, the more fear that the media spreads, the only thing that they can supplant that with or to keep going is more fear. Because they can't go back and say, oh, well, now it's not as big as we thought. I mean, it just won't work. So they have to push more fear, and they have to keep getting – and people have bought into it so hard. Now they're all sitting at home watching the news. Well, they need more viewers. And how do you get more viewers? How do you get people watching your newscasts longer? It's, we have to provide the facts about coronavirus, and we have to dispel the myths, and anything that you're hearing on the internet is fake news, but this is the real news. NBC with Lester Holt,
Yeah, and then the next day at work, everybody, justifies everyone else's thought by talking about the exact same
Absolutely.
thing.
It's like the whole social conditioning. And
Yeah.
if you're an outcast, if you say something different, well, then you will be socially shamed into believing back into the herd mentality. And, we've talked about it a lot with immunizations and these vaccines coming. It's like they can't give you a vaccine against your will. They just can't. They're not going to be able to walk into your house with a needle and pop you into the arm. However, they can shame you into needing that vaccine by making it, sorry, only people who have vaccination records can allow their children into school. Sorry, only people who have vaccination records can come into this supermarket. Hey, only people who have vaccination records can fly on this plane. And then all of a sudden you're socially shamed, and then you're that person that stands out in the crowd when you say, I don't want to be vaccinated. Everyone's going to point at you and say, I'm not getting on the plane with that guy. And then all of a sudden you're socially shamed into getting that vaccine.
Yeah, and what else is ridiculous about that is also the viewpoint of these people condemning others who are actually looking into it and trying to make up their own mind, instead of not thinking about it in the least and just going with it. It's like you said with vaccines, it's the exact same thing. It's like parents I'm not even saying you have to be an anti-vaxxer, because I can't say that I'm really anti anything. I'm pretty in the middle, and I see a ton of perspective, so it's hard for me to be anti anything. But you should have to, as a parent, you've got to at least look into it, what you're putting in your kids' bodies. And even if you can't come to a concrete conclusion, so you do feel it's best to go ahead and do it, if that's where you are in your heart, that's fine. But to just be shamed because you're questioning something is just completely ridiculous.
And that's the point
I
that
feel
we're
like
at
it's
now.
almost backwards. It's like, not that I agree with shame, but shouldn't the people being shamed are the ones not questioning a single thing?
Not anymore. Yeah, not anymore. If you don't question a thing and you simply listen to the nightly news and you believe everything that you're fed by the media, that's the people that are socially accepted. So you're right. Those who should be shamed for, hey, you're not paying attention to anything, you're not looking into anything, you're not reading anything, you're simply believing, those are the people that are socially accepted. Reading from your book, page 145 right now, you said, and this is great and people should recognize the truth behind this, it says, I'm not sure if you've noticed lately, but our society is absolutely insane. No, literally insane. Our collective way of life and consciousness has become so void of love and purpose and full of fear and apathy that we have relinquished truth and many of our personal freedoms in exchange for convenience and a feeling of safety and security. We have become a society of sleepwalkers, the slumbering herd. We do what we're told, believe what we're shown, and question nothing. So, I can't disagree with that more.
Yeah.
But,
and
so true.
And it just surprises me in a lot of situations because some stuff is just so blatantly obvious. Again, it's not obvious what's going on, but it's so obvious that something is going on and that what we're being told is incredibly thin and almost completely false in most cases.
Yeah, no, definitely. I don't know how you can look at it any other way. And again, I agree with what you said about being in the middle sometimes. And this is a place a lot of people don't want to be. It feels better for them to be in one end or the other. And for me, I mean, that's something I've always prided myself on, excuse me, is being in the middle of a lot of these topics where,
Yep.
because I think you can go too strong one way or the other, and that becomes a problem. So you're really right that the middle ground is much better. It's just like, my coming to truth in the last 5 years. Originally, I was big on religion. That was the way I was raised. That was the way I was brought up. And when I got disenchanted with that, I pushed myself into the science area. And I said, no, science must be true. Evolution is true. The Earth is 4.54 billion years old. We know this because of radiocarbon dating. I mean, that became my regular. And then all of a sudden, when I looked at the whole plate of things, I said, wait a second, these are all belief systems. And neither one to me was really backed by any evidence. And I said, so what's best than to be down that middle road? Now, when you're in the middle road, the scary thing is you're hated by both ends. That's where I find myself.
And you have to have super strong discernment to see what to take from what side and
right, which is
what
the best,
to leave. So
but it's still the best feeling.
When
People say take the good, leave the bad, that's what's so great about being in the middle is I can look at both sides and take the good and leave the bad from every aspect, from every video I watch, from any interview I hear. I can take the good, leave the bad. But the problem, like you said, is you become that person that's hated on both ends, right? Because there's one end of the spectrum that says we hate you for not believing what we do, and the other end says we hate you for not believing what you do. That's an uncomfortable place to be, even though I think it's the best place to be. It's uncomfortable because if I did choose one side or the other, all of a sudden I've got a lot of people who believe exactly what I do, and that makes life very easy.
Yep.
Right. But when you don't have that, when you're in the middle, that's a tough place to be, and it's where I've resided for the last 5 years, take it or leave it,
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And a lot of stuff also comes from just personal interest and curiosity too, like looking into flat Earth originally. I was never just super against it, but I kind of thought it was like, people just making channels trying to get views or something.
Right.
But then you watch and you guys are spouting off numbers and stuff, and I'm like, I didn't even know that. I got to go see if that's right. Because it's just like I don't remember learning that stuff, and if I did, it didn't feel
relevant.
It didn't feel like I couldn't connect with it enough for it to actually stick.
Well, and that should be a problem with being taught things that don't relate to you at all, and that's where I think that they get away with talking about the universe and talking about everything in the sky. Is they can make up anything. It's a blank slate. It's very easy to convince you of anything that's going on in the sky and what's going on light years away and. Oh, the closest star is 25 trillion miles. And you can just hear that and be like, I guess so. These guys know. These guys know. And it's very easy. And Dave Weiss always talks about how easy it is to believe a lie and how difficult it is to actually research and reach your own conclusions. But once you start down that path, and you call it the spiral life, I may call it a search for truth. People may call it whatever they want. Once you start down and you start seeking a better life, a better understanding of where you live, all of a sudden it just becomes open to you where, I can take this, I can leave that. You talk about, the spiral life, you talk about searching for truth, right? And just being okay with knowing that you don't know some things and maybe you're not meant to know them. You're not just buying into what you're told.
Yep. And that was one of the things that stuck with me from one of the few professors from OSU that actually sticks in my mind too. He was very influential, but that was one thing he would always say is you don't know what you don't know. And for the longest time, I thought it was just, like a saying, like, it is what it is. Right. But like, if you break it down, it's like, you honestly have no idea what you don't know.
Right.
Like you could literally know less than 1% of everything there is to know, which I'm sure that's absolutely true.
Right. Yeah,
but it's like, so you have no idea the truths that haven't surfaced in your reality. So that's, how could you not be open? That's why it kills me when people come out of high school or come out of college and they just think they know all this stuff. And it's like, well, yeah, you learned a lot of stuff, but to actually know what's what, and for it to be absolute fact, that's something different.
Right. No. And I think another thing you talk about a lot in the book, which I talk a lot about, and these are the channels that I follow, are the ones that practice authenticity. The ones that practice balance and honesty, and that's all I care about at this point in my life. Is the person I'm talking to honest with me? Are they honest in their dealings with others? So that's why it's very easy for me to tell people, don't watch the news, get away from the news, because the news is not authentic. It's not authentic. The news is not providing balance. Anybody who thinks that's true, I mean, come on, give me a break. The news is not provided. It's a very one-sided affair, and they're not being honest. When I sit and watch a newscaster, that person is not being honest with me. They're reading a teleprompter.
Right.
It's quite easy to figure out. Anybody on the radio news, those people are reading from a script. And at least when I watch YouTube, the people that I'm watching are authentic. They're honest. They're giving their honest opinion, at least the people that I like. And that's what it's all about, being unique, being original. That's what I like about my channel. I mean, people can say whatever they want about me. They can hate me for whatever reason. They can disagree with me on a million things. But my channel is unique and it's original. It is just me. That's what my channel is. Me giving my opinions. I have some lounge shows where we sit back and have a conversation with a few guys. I make my own videos. People have been watching my videos for 4 years. At least I'm unique and authentic. And what you hear out of that's my real honest opinion. And I think that goes a long way.
Oh yeah, that's huge, man. That's what's a common thread between most of the people I watch and keep up with, which, I mean, with the amount of stuff that's out there and the limited time you have, it's hard to keep up with everyone you want to keep up with.
Right.
But yeah, authenticity is huge, especially when you're talking about topics that you know before you even make a video. More people are going to have a problem with this than who are going to be cool with it. And so that takes balls no matter what you're talking about. So like, even if, like I'm into spirituality and consciousness and learning what I can where I can in those arenas and leaving what I don't resonate with, but I still give a lot of people a chance. So like, I watch a lot of, channelers and tarot readers just to see where they're coming from and stuff. And it's like, I understand that those things, just like other areas, can be exploited.
Right.
But it's also like, these people are, just doing this and putting themselves out there. So, I mean, this is what they believe.
Right.
They're being honest with what they believe. And, even taking what what you don't resonate with or taking what you resonate with and leaving what you don't.
Yeah, and I think
that doesn't mean you can't watch someone if they say one thing that you don't resonate with. It's like, oh, I'm done with them. It's like, you gotta take everything.
In fact, the channels I like the best are the ones that have a standpoint that's different than mine, but do so in an honest, way. And there's a lot of people out there that I watch that we have different opinions, heavily different opinions on some subjects. But the thing is I can tell they're authentic. I can tell they're being honest, and I want to hear those viewpoints because they might help, change my mind. And just looking at your book on page 42, you're talking about seeking truth. And again, this is what we just talked about. You said it's far too easy not to question things that are told or explained to you. Our lives are busy and our minds are filled with a combination of important information and unnecessary filler. It is our job to release the unnecessary filler while balancing and increasing the amount of important information we possess. We live with constant access to nearly unlimited information, so I think it would be to our advantage to learn how to use the resources at our disposal and to help us with these tasks. But I just think it's important that you point out there that there is so much garbage out there, but it's okay to review it all, to take it all in, and like you said, grow from it.
Yeah, definitely. And going back to looking into all the flat earth arguments and points and all that, going back and trying to find the opposite side. And, again, some of those people are saying what they believe. Some of it they're just regurgitating, but a lot of it's just the same point after same point and not really questioning anything, especially stuff that blatantly needs to be questioned. And, again, I'm not going to tell you exactly what our earth is, but, I feel like this is our physical plane of existence. So it's a plane of existence. So, and everything that goes along with that. And like, I don't know, I've always felt like just looking up into the sky, it's like the sun and moon are way closer than what we're told. Like they're right there.
And that it should settle with people easier. And again, if I want to hear a person sit there and tell me their honest opinion of why they think the sun is so far, why they think, that's not what you get. What you get is somebody who's basically reading from a physics book. It's like, yeah, I've read that. Yeah, I get your mathematics. I understand that mathematics can be configured any way you want. I do a video where I talk about it, that you're able to change sizes and distances in the sky because we're dealing with apparent sizes, not real sizes. In order to know the real size of the sun, you have to know the real distance. And if you don't know the real distance, then you can't really know the real size. And if you don't know the real size, you can't really know the real distance. So it's all guesswork at that point.
Yeah, that was one thing I always questioned, and the carbon dating was something I always questioned as a kid, just like thinking, like, how do you know, what are you basing that on? How do you know that?
As if
and it's just fact, you know.
as if the atmosphere has always been the same, and they're able to figure out this, and it's all mathematics. And again, they can create a model, and they can make anything true, and they can make anybody test positive for something if they want. You know, bringing up the same topic. So,
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to the book a little bit.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think that you talk a lot about is self-health. And I guess you can get into that a little bit, but really what I'm looking at, which is important about this book, is it's not just, hey, you need to get to the gym and work out 3 hours a day. It's like, no shit, Sherlock. You know? So, I mean, you talk a little bit about, you know, kind of the way you look at it instead of that.
Yeah, right. So it's obviously like a play on self-help, but self-health, because it's all about taking your health and all aspects of that back into your own hands and not relying on all external factors to tell you what you should be doing. And, you know, a lot of those external factors are advice that's not followed up, because, I mean, the time you have in a doctor's office, even if it's good, it's what, like 10, 15 minutes, something like that?
Yeah, if that.
Yeah, and then, you know, if you want to follow up, you can have a follow-up, but, you know, it's kind of like you're given basic guidelines and expected to just follow it, and people do that, and then the meds and everything else, but it's just getting into everything that you can do for yourself. When I started learning just about just all the natural stuff, that's just like, it's almost like it came from the earth to help us. It's insane. I don't get it. But yeah, that's the basic gist of it, is just all aspects of your health you can basically take back into your own hands. But I mean, I've heard other people say this, if I break my arm or something, you know, obviously I'm going to go to a doctor, but like,
right,
with getting sick, I never go to the doctor anymore. You know, there's just stuff I do around here at the house that I do to help myself get better. And you know what? If I went to the doctor and he gave me medicine, you know, I would probably be better in about a week. And if I don't, then I'll probably be better in about a week.
Right.
So, you know, and I'm going to feel way better in the process, you know, taking care of it myself. And so I'm not anti-doctor at all. I'm very pro good doctors because they're needed.
Right.
But there's just a ton of stuff we can do for ourselves that's not really brought into the light very often.
No, I think it will help you stay away from needing the doctor even longer. The longer you practice self-health and you grow your own food and you cook at home and you don't eat processed foods, all you're doing is you're, you know, extending your life, extending your happiness, extending your joy. And yeah, eventually if you're going to need heart surgery, well, I definitely recommend you let a doctor do that, not your neighbor.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but I mean, I still think we can stay away from that. I don't take any pills anymore. And I mean, Tylenol, Advil, anything like that. You know, I just don't take pills like that, because I feel if I have a headache or something, there's something in my life that needs to be changed. And there's a lot of people out there that just says, well, I have a headache every morning when I wake up, and so I take, you know, 2 Tylenols, or I have a headache before I go to bed, I take 2 Tylenol PMs. And I think that is so terrible, because your body's telling you something, whether it's you need more water, whether it's you need more sleep, whether you're not eating the right food.
Your blood pressure's high, or,
right.
You know.
Yeah, there's some other issue. And, you know, really supporting local farms is so important. And I understand that a lot of people can't grow food in their backyard. I mean, I tried last year, and there's a lot of things that didn't work. Some things worked great, tomatoes, cucumbers. There's some things that just didn't work. So that's why going to the local, you know, farmers markets is great. I met this guy, and he has this farm, and he's like, oh, here's my farm. My wife and I own it. Our children play in it. You know, he said, here, you can have these eggs. All these all these chickens eat these exactly what, you know, this produce that we sell here. They sell beans and lettuce and green beans and carrots, and, you know, that's what they eat, and this is where we get these eggs from. And then he says, we don't farm with any kind of equipment, so there's no tractors rolling over this stuff. It's all by hand. Cool. Yeah, and once you get to know that, it's like, now I look forward to going and seeing the guy every week.
Yeah, man.
Except for right now, obviously, there's no farmers market, so thank you a lot, mainstream media, for scaring the shit out of everybody and making them stay home. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, that's great.
But, you know, I thought it was, you know, good. I always come to a chapter of your book, too, and I'm always like, I saw probiotics. I'm like, oh, is he one of these guys that's going to tell me I need to take a bunch of, and it's not. I start reading that chapter, and you're getting into the fact that, no, get your probiotics through your diet. You know? Yeah. So I kind of agree with that. I know a lot of people.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm actually drinking kombucha right now.
There you go. Right. And there's a lot of people who think, oh, you need to take these pills. And I get into that. I'm like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to take these antibiotics. I don't want to do all these things. But when it comes to varying your diet, and I think you'll feel much better. I always talk about distilled water because I think really that cleans you, cleans your body. And anybody who has a distiller at home, they can attest to what comes out of the water, and it is disgusting. There is this white silt that looks like a bag full of sugar, and if you just clean your water for a month, and then you look at this bag, it's like, the bottom inch or two of a plastic sandwich baggie is filled with white crud. Looks like cocaine.
Yeah.
It's disgusting.
And gunk. Yeah, it's disgusting. It's like, wow, that would have been in my body.
Right. And just caking the walls of arteries and everything else. I mean, you don't want that. So,
yeah. So have you ever used like a water tester to see what exactly is in your water?
Not to see exactly what's in it. I mean, I've used a water tester that gives me the, total dissolvable solids, they call it, the TDS, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, when I lived in Salinas, which is a city kind of near the bay, it's about 30 minutes from Monterey, California. When I lived there, the water was coming back in the high 400s of, that was the total dissolvable solids, which is parts per million. And I think the legal limit that they put on is like 500. So it was under the legal limit. Here in Merced, where I live now, still the legal limit's 500. But the numbers, I think we're in the high 100s, 180s, 190s, nice. which is still bad. But it's still great to be able to put it through the distiller and measure it after, and it always comes back at 1 or 0. And if it's ever at 1, it means I need to clean my distiller a little bit. But I'll take 1 over what they're trying to give me with, tap water. And then also the bottled water industry. I mean, people need to understand, and I can attest to this because I used to be a store manager of a drugstore. We would get pallets of water. And first of all, those things are sitting in unrefrigerated trucks for I have no idea how long. And then they're delivered to grocery stores, and people need to understand that those bottles will sit in the back porch or whatever you want to call it, the receiving dock, for hours and sometimes days. And here where I live, where I used to work in Gilroy and those areas, it would get to be over 100 degrees. And when you've got plastic bottles of water sitting out in 100-degree temperature, I guarantee you your water is just getting disgusting. And you don't want plastics melting into your water and then people just drinking them. And then they're not good for the environment, obviously, either. So,
yeah, and I've never tasted or liked the taste of bottled water. There's always just that nasty side flavor. Right. So even before I was into, all the different waters and stuff like that, I could not stand drinking bottled water. And it made your mouth feel weird. I never liked it.
No, and
but
then
I actually got a distiller.
Good.
For Christmas. So
good. There's a lot of bottled water that still has fluoride, and I've if people want to check out my video how and why I distill my drinking water, if you watch that video, I show you a website where you can go and look up bottled water, and then it'll tell you how much. And pretty much every bottled water has some amount of fluoride in it, but some are a lot less than others. I think if you're going to drink anything, from what I've seen, Aquafina is one that seems to not have very much, but it still has some. And if you purchase water from the vending machines outside of grocery stores, the one I've done a few tests, and the one it's called, no, I can't think, Crystal Springs. I think it's called that or something. But, it's one of those machines outside. When I test that, it comes back at 3 or 4, which is not the end of the world. And I think I've looked it up too, and those that one doesn't have any fluoride, and it goes through reverse osmosis and a bunch of things. But again, you can trust those are just words on a vending machine, so it's up to you to trust that. I think it's better to do my own distilling at home, and it just saves you a ton of money, which is important too, because that can be something that definitely can cause a downward spiral in your life.
Oh yeah,
when you don't have enough money.
And I'm not absolutely positive, but I'm pretty sure, and I may have heard you talking about this, but bottled distilled water will actually leach more from the plastic because it doesn't have as much stuff in it.
Yeah, no, don't do that. And especially, even if you look at most of those distilled waters, I think it even says on the bottle, not for human consumption. So that's more distilled water for like cleaning, or if you want to, make your own spray or something to, clean your countertops or something. But I wouldn't recommend drinking that water either. We store all ours in glass bottles, and it's cheap to buy that.
That's actually what prevents me from making as much as I want to is fridge space, and I don't have enough glass containers. So right. I'm hoping to find a cheap fridge to put in the garage and mini glass containers.
Yeah, that's a good idea. We have basically one that sits in the fridge, and then I bought a bunch of individual, they're like 20-ounce glass bottles. which I'm able to put in the fridge. So that's the way we do it. And then again, we've got like 6-gallon jugs around the house that are, because again, I use that water to brush my teeth. I use that water to rinse my toothbrush. I use
That's
that
an
water.
excellent idea. So do you use like the glass jug that has like the little spout on it
Yep.
for that?
Yep.
Nice.
And so I just, when we distill the water, I pour it in there. And then there's like a carafe that sits next to my sink that I use to rinse my mouth when I brush my teeth. And we also have a filter. Somebody bought me a filter. His name's Josh as well. So thank you, Josh, if you're out there.
Excellent.
Bought me a shower filter for making sure that takes out the fluoride from the shower. And it's just little things like this. And that's why, I appreciate the book. And I hope people, if they get a chance to read it. And you've given quite a few away. I know you gave me one. Didn't you send a few to a few other people?
Yeah. I sent one to, Karen B.
Right.
And Mark Sargent and Mr. Dearth himself.
Right. I think Dave Weiss said he has it. So,
which I think he mentioned. I think I remember him saying that his wife started it. So I don't know if she finished it or what, but I'd love to know what she thought about it also.
Yeah, I'll have to ask him because it seems like a book that Paige would really enjoy. And especially because she's a life coach too. I mean, that's what she does.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
I'm sure it fit a lot into, her feelings. And one of the things that I thought was good about the book too is you talk about some of the, dangers, downers, roadblocks, right? And those are good just to recognize, potential, what is this called? Potential downers, you call them, and you can kind of go through and they, each one has its own subsection. So general negativity, self-limiting beliefs, which I think a lot of people have. Understand that the main thing standing between you and your goals is you. You talk about jealousy, comparing yourself to others, which I think is a huge problem with social media. You've got these fake people, fake girls who have Botox and everything, who are showing their faces and making other girls feel inferior. You talk about competitiveness. Fear, of course, is a huge one. Unwillingness to change. Narrow-mindedness, which are, I'll read from that part you hear. You said, others are absolutely terrified to learn new truths that require a change in the mindset. And again, have no reason why they should be open to anything contrary to their current thoughts and opinions. Guess what happens if you do not allow yourself to learn and grow? You don't learn or grow. So please, for the sake of yourself and all humanity, practice being open, accepting new ideas and possibilities that exist for this life and beyond. You talk about obsessive control, people-pleasing, and you and I talked a little bit about that before the show. I was telling you it was a problem that I had for a while, was just always trying to make everyone happy. And if you're a YouTuber, you know that it isn't physically, humanly possible. And to get past that hump is something that took me a little while. It used to be like, oh, I got to make everybody happy. I got to make people like my channel. And then I just got to the point where I said, if people don't like it, they can turn it off. I'm okay. I'll still sleep well that night.
Yeah, exactly.
You talk about perfectionism, over-emotionality, laziness, ignorance, pride. So I thought that was a great chapter that really kind of explains some of the, downfalls and roadblocks that people might reach.
Yeah, definitely, man. And the reason I have so many in there is because I probably went through every single one of those.
Right.
And it's just tough, man. You've got to give yourself a break in this life and in this reality, man. There's so much going on, and this journey never stops. Even if you're, learning new things and making positive changes every day, there's always something you can work on. And so even if it is getting over some of these roadblocks, because, like you said, people pleasing, that's a huge one. Competitiveness, and I'm not talking about healthy, fun competition to where, you're playing a game and you honestly don't care whether you win or lose, but, you're just competing for the fun of the game. But, man, some of these kids' sports and stuff, it's just absolutely ridiculous, the level of unhealthy competition. And, I know a lot of people say, but it teaches team building and teamwork. It's like, yeah, but it also teaches a huge us versus them mentality, and that you always have to win.
Right, it's that whole tribal mentality. It's the same reason they put sports out there for people to get addicted to. And it's so funny because all you're cheering on is basically a T-shirt, right? Yeah. That team T-shirt is more important than this team T-shirt, and this T-shirt is better because even the players swap teams. It's not like you're even rooting for people. You're rooting for T-shirts. I like the orange and black T-shirt, and he likes the blue T-shirt. And my orange and black T-shirt is far better, and we need to go to war. There's people who have been beat up in parking lots and in stadiums and peed on at football games because they have a different shirt on. Can you imagine?
And speaking of orange and black, I went to OSU, and the level of ridiculousness between OSU and OU, it's just
Right. There's like a
that's
literal.
why I had to stop paying attention so much, because I found myself getting emotionally caught up in that stuff, and it's like, why am I letting this
Right.
completely arbitrary thing control my mood for the entire weekend?
Right.
And
There's
then
like a hate
dread
there.
talking to people because I know they're OU fans. It's like,
Right.
yeah, I'm so over that.
Yeah, it makes you basically hate someone else. And one of the best chapters in the book, or subtitles, whatever, is where you talk about love.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think it's so awesome, because I think that word, and I think you described it well. I'm trying to look for exactly where you said it here, but you said that love is here it goes. You've said I have found that love is incredibly difficult to describe in a truly deserving way, and I think that's so true. When you think of that, it's like, how do you describe love? And then you describe it here as an energy, not an emotion. And people might think, well, wait a second, I thought love is you described it as an energy. And then here, let me just read this part because I think it's important. You said, the reason I say love is an energy as opposed to simply an emotion is because it encompasses several other energies within itself. These include, but are not limited to, acceptance, patience, forgiveness, understanding, empathy, compassion, respect, gratitude, appreciation. You go on from there. But I think that's so important that people recognize that, and that's why it's so hard to describe, is really it's an all-encompassing feeling, and it's something that just isn't there anymore.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's part of being in the middle, is because having that true compassion for everyone. It's like you see people doing the complete opposite of what you believe, but having compassion, it's like you can't help but feel that for them, because they're truly scared about what's going on.
Right.
And even though they're not handling it the best, and they're shaming others because they don't, they're not spreading the fear, and they're not wearing masks and gloves everywhere they go, which, let me come back to that because I have a funny story about that.
Okay.
But they, to be in the middle like that, you've got to have that compassion, to not just be like, oh, you think this is real, you're an idiot, I'm not even listening to you. It's like, part of me sometimes wants to be that way. The ego side of me wants to be that way. But, the higher self comes in, and it's like, it's okay. You can love them and understand that that's what's true for them, unfortunately. And it sucks for them that it's that way, but that's where they're honestly coming from. And so that's why it's such a delicate situation,
Yeah. And just to, continue on from that chapter, you talk about, we just talked about the things that are included in love, and then you have to talk about the things that are not in the energy of love, which are guilt, shame, fear, judgment, gossip, jealousy, grudges, manipulation, blame. So really, it's a great book, and you will feel better about life after you read it. I think that there's no doubt that if somebody can read this, there's no way they can walk away from it and see, I took nothing from that. It's just not possible, because it kind of, just like the review that I read at the beginning, it really spells it out in a unique way. And do you have plans on writing a more in-depth thing, or what's your plans as far as book writing?
First of all, dude, thanks for all the kind words, man. You're saying some awesome stuff, because all this stuff is definitely in my intentions writing this.
Well, I can see that.
That's
That's what's so easy to tell, and that's what I said. I promote people that take steps to improve humanity, who take steps to improve people's conscious acceptance of the world and the reality around them. And that's really what this book talks about. It flat out spells it out for you. And you say things in here that I'm have so close to my heart, which is you cannot simply believe what you've been taught. You cannot simply sit back and believe what you're told and maintain the status quo, because if you do, you're going to be a negative person. You're going to have negative feelings around you, because that's what's being portrayed to you as what life is.
Yeah, definitely. And you've got to also learn to love yourself and let yourself get beyond the fear. And
Right.
Trust your gut. Whenever your gut is telling you something, whenever your higher self is telling you something, whenever you're getting that tap on the shoulder, like, this isn't right.
Right.
Love yourself and pay attention to that and acknowledge that, and not just ignore it because of, fear or whatever else.
Yeah, because you've been taught to ignore that voice, and you've been taught your
Totally.
senses are wrong, and that your senses can be fooled and misled. And of course
Yeah,
they
and
can.
that there's nothing new to learn, that everyone's already figured it out.
Right. Everything's been explored. There's nothing to do here. Go to work, pay your taxes. I love how they say that. The only thing that, what do they say? The only thing that is true in life is death and taxes, or the only thing that's
Yeah.
guaranteed in life is so funny.
Yeah.
I mean, when you hear things like that, you just have to learn to laugh them off. Although there's a lot of people out there who believe that.
Yep.
The only thing that's guaranteed to me is death and taxes.
Yeah.
So no, I guess.
For
your
a
story.
follow-up book, I've got a lot of different projects going on, and that was also a big paralysis thing for me in creating this, and that's actually something that Willow, my first girl, brought along with her as a gift to me, was actually following through with my creativity to the point of actually producing something, because I've always had like 10 projects going on at the same time, and they all end up sitting there because I can't decide what to work on, because what's more important, what do I have time for, and then nothing gets done. And so I actually wrote this.
You mean analysis paralysis?
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I actually wrote this like a year after she was born, so she brought a lot of inspiration.
Right. Well, it's a good book. Like I said, I can't praise it enough, just because it's a really easy read. It's a fun read, and I think people enjoy it. You wanted to talk a little bit about. You said you had a story to tell or something.
I thought it was funny. My wife mentioned the other day all these people using gloves on stuff, and she's like, "Do these people realize they're not even using them correctly? Like, if you're gonna truly think you're being clean by using gloves, shouldn't you have to like change your gloves all the time?"
Right.
Like tattoo artists do, like after they're or anyone else. But that actually that came in my mind just now. What I was thinking of. My daily job is a hotshot delivery service, so I deliver like manufactured products around Tulsa.
Okay.
And a lot of people are changing their like guidelines for what to do whenever you get to the building. You got to call or whatever. And that's what this one company did the other day. I got there and there was a sign on the shipping and receiving door that said I needed to call this number and they'd come out. Well, where they had me go, the guy unloads me and I go give him my paperwork and he grabs my paperwork and grabs my pen from me, no gloves, signs it. And I'm just like, you guys are so worried about safety, but you're letting people use other people's pens. I just don't get it.
My wife and I were driving yesterday, and I probably haven't seen us laugh so hard in a long time. Somebody was coming up on a street, and they were in the car by themselves with the windows up, wearing a mask, and it had to be. I can't show it because I grabbed the wheel and I was jerking forward in hilarity. I just thought it was so funny. I was like, "Oh my goodness,
That is hilarious." I saw something similar actually yesterday. I saw a husband and wife, an elderly couple driving, and the passenger was the wife, and she had a mask on, and the driver did not. So I thought, is she infected?
Right, because that's what you should
know.
see. And it's like, I don't know if we're supposed to be impressed with these people with the masks, but the people with the masks tells me you would wear that if you were sick, not to not get sick. But anyway, it's like, to each their own, whatever they want to do. What am I going to do?
Yep.
It's pretty funny stuff, though. So, and let me just show one more time here. I'm just going to bring up just the book one more time, just so people can see where you can get the book if you want. I'll read real quick the little intro because I like it. It says, take a moment to imagine a world full of people who are dedicated to perpetually elevating themselves, becoming the most positive and authentic version of themselves possible, striving for balance and alignment within the universe, showing love and respect through acceptance and understanding, taking care of themselves by eating cleanly and staying physically active, all while being conscious of the body-mind-spirit connection. Imagine the possibilities of a society based on this type of thinking and being. Not only can it be imagined, it can be accomplished. This book is an introductory look at how we can each elevate ourselves in order to improve our lives and grow as individuals, while simultaneously helping to elevate and improve the world around us. And I like that it's not, in order to change the world, people need to change themselves individually. And I think that's
definitely.
right. And I think that's spelled out quite well. How have I heard it said otherwise? Like, be the change in the world you want to see. I might have butchered that, but something like that.
No, yeah, I think you said it spot on. And that's also what I talk about, like in the relationships chapter, because so many times in relationships, we want to change other people. And it's like, why don't you work on yourself and you'll see the changes come.
Right. Yeah. If you want to be treated better, treat your spouse better, and they'll have no choice but to treat you better. I mean, that's really the way it goes.
Yeah. And learn to listen. And
right.
Yeah.
If you want to be listened to, you have to listen. If they're not listening to you, I can pretty much guarantee it's because you don't listen to them.
Yeah.
It's just the way way things go. So I guess the other thing that we want to talk about, or the other thing that you had written that I thought was important, is that it's a never-ending process. And I just totally agree with that it's never ending. And it's also, I've talked about this a million times before, but people might think it's too hard to get started, and really that's the easiest part, is just to take one element of the way that you live your life and better it, and then go day by day where you add something else. And it's what had to happen for my wife and I, where there was a lot of things we needed to work on, and what you do is you take one thing at a time and you get better at that. And you're not getting out and exercising enough, and you fix that. And you're not eating well enough, and you fix that. And you're not drinking the right water, and you fix that. And then you look back and you're like, wow, we accomplished so much. But to start from the beginning and look forward and say, we need to change all these things, would have seemed like a total uphill battle. And when you take each individual thing, it may take you years. But really, is that really what you're getting at when you talk about the spiral life?
Yeah, that's spot on, man. There's no end, because, whether it's your diet and exercise or, whatever, you think you can accomplish one thing, well, you may end up being completely out of balance in that because you got so addicted to it. So that may need to be reeled back in. So, I mean, there's all kinds of different little changes we can make, and, it's different for everyone. Like I just mentioned there, you could have two different people on opposite sides of the spectrum, someone that's completely overboard on it and someone who never does anything. It's like they both have stuff to work on, but it's totally different. And what else did you say? I'm sorry, my mind just blanked.
No problem. I was trying to read the chat a little bit, see if anybody had any questions, but I think the big topic, man, is 5G. 5G and Corona. I just see how many people died from the flu, and so a lot of people talking about that. And I get it. And for me, it's just something that, I don't know. I guess we'll talk about it a lot tomorrow in the lounge, as we have been. But I feel better not talking about it. And I don't know if it was, I think it was Owen Benjamin I was listening to the other day, and he described it well, because I've been somebody who the last month is like, when is this going to end? When is this going to end? And I've been kind of living every day, like waking up like, is this over yet? Is this done?
Yeah.
And he described it as, we can't be doing that. We need to be almost not accepting it as the new norm, but just look at it as, okay, this is the way life's going to be. It'll make you feel a lot better. And I feel like that helped me a lot, because at first I was like, yeah, okay, I can relax now. Like, it doesn't need to be like, when is this going to be over? Is this going to be over tomorrow?
Right.
It just is a sad state of affairs. It shows how in fear people are. And I'll keep doing my job in talking about why I don't think people need to be afraid, how I think this fear is spreading, why I think it's spreading, which is the mainstream news, how we can prove that they're lying, how we can prove that they're not being honest. And people have seen, there's tons of videos out there showing you that these hospitals that they're claiming on the news are the epicenter and that they're overrun. Well, the next day somebody goes there and guess what? There's nobody there. There's nobody in the waiting room. There's nobody lining up. I don't know if they're getting actors to line up and put masks on. And here's this huge line of people looking for testing spots. I went to my local hospital. It was funny because my wife got scared for a second because I pulled up and I said, I'm going to ask them to test me. She's like, don't do it. Don't do it. I was like, no, you watch. They won't. They just won't do it. So I pulled up and said, hey, can I get tested here? And they're, oh, no, we don't do testing here. I'm like, well, what's this tent here outside? And what's all these signs and redirection and everything? And there's nobody in it. It's just a completely empty tent. And they're like, oh, no, you need to talk to your primary care physician, and he'll refer you to somewhere to get tested. And it just seems like a bunch of malarkey to me. Again, the other thing I'm a big fan of is people can believe whatever they want. If they want to let something like the coronavirus scare them to inside their house, scare them into quarantine, scare them into not being around others, scare them into not shaking hands, scare them into wearing masks and gloves, go ahead.
Yep.
What are you going to do?
I know. Yeah. That was actually one thing that was really encouraging the other day. I pulled up. It was at work again. I was delivering something out to this place I hadn't been before. And when I got there, I had saw that there was a guy that used to work in another company that got fired. He was out there, and I hadn't seen him in probably a year. And we were like, oh, hey, what's up, man? And not even a hesitation. He comes up and shakes my hand, and obviously no hesitation from me either. And I was just like, okay, so not everyone has lost their minds.
No, yeah, I was walking to my mailbox today, and the neighbor across the street yelled at me. He says, are you losing your mind yet? I said, no, my mind is just fine. He's like, all right, me too. That was our conversation. So I do think a lot of people are seeing through this, and a lot of people, again, those who may not are the ones who are sitting in front of their TVs, quarantined. This guy was out doing his lawn, so great.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who won't even do that. Like, I'm not going outside. It's a boogeyman out there.
Yeah.
So,
Whenever I think, and it may have been Sophia talking about it. I can't remember. I remember hearing someone talking about how important it is to get out in the sun, just like it's always so important to get out in the sun. But it's like we've now been taught that the sun is like our enemy. I can't remember the clip I saw, but what the guy said about the sun was just horrendous. And I was like, no, we need to be soaking up the sun.
absolutely. I think the sun is one of the most important things. In fact, if there's anything I make sure I do every day, it's get in the backyard and whether it's to barbecue or whatever, but I just want to be out in the sun, sit back in the chair and just take the sun in.
Yeah.
See in the chat, Paraplegic Bear says, knowing the truth about this stuff has stressed my brother out to where he is worried sick. It's a damn mess. Yeah, that's the scary thing, is that a lot of people can't take it. And I think that they know that. They'll just become fearful as all get out. And you describe it well. I think you said it earlier, that fear can make you sick.
Yep.
I mean, that's what people need to somebody says, take it as a rest for now. Yeah, well, it's like I said, my wife and I have had more fun times together. Of course, it's playing Yahtzee, which people, I don't know if they agree with that or not, but
I can dig some Yahtzee.
Yeah, it's a fun game. A little competitiveness.
Especially when you roll the Yahtzee. I mean, come on, what's better than that?
Yeah, you got to be pretty excited about that. It definitely entails a fist pump. So, yeah, we've been enjoying that in the downtime. It's funny because we did buy a puzzle. We're like, all right, let's do a puzzle. We did the edges, and we're like, all right, we quit. So puzzles aren't for us.
Oh, that's great.
I'm like, I don't want to go past that. I'll just do the outer edges, and I'm done. Thank you very much, Dan Tran, for the super chat. Really appreciate that. Somebody says, glad I don't live in the city. I love my garden. Well, gardens are so important. I don't know what's so therapeutic about them, but you do a whole section of talking about that, growing your own food, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's hugely important. I need to get way more into it. Where I am in my yard, I've got some room, but like all the cables and everything, the electricity, everything else is all underground, crisscrossing everywhere. So I actually don't have much going on in those terms. But that's something that, it's even, and that's another thing about this book. It's like, I wrote all this stuff, but I don't want anyone to even slightly expect that I'm on top of everything. Because I've got just as much work to do as everyone else.
Well, anybody who acts like they know the answer to everything, that's a big sign to me that they don't.
Yeah, yeah. I just want to wear a sign. I'm not an authority. I'm just, just working and sharing.
Yeah. Bob agrees with me. Bob says puzzles suck. Yeah. Didn't enjoy it too much. It was fun to do the edges, and then I found all those. And I'm like, all right, the rest of this, let's do something else. I can find other things I want to do. Some of the things you talk about that can bring a little nature into your life, or walk barefoot on the earth. A lot of people talk about that. Soak up some sun. We just talked about that. If your workout abides, take it outside. I'm a big fan. I mean, get out and walk, especially now. There's nobody out, so you have a good time.
Yeah, or if you're into just body weight resistance training, I mean, you're not using any equipment anyway, man. So go out and do some push-ups on the ground and get your feet and your hands on the ground. And
I really miss riding my bike. It's another thing. Ride a bike. I mean, bikes are cheap. You don't need to go get an expensive one. There's bikes that are $150. You can buy a used one on Craigslist or something for even cheaper than that. But it's just great to get out and feel the wind and bike ride. And it's something that we haven't been able to do too much because my wife is pregnant. I don't think it's the safest activity for a pregnant woman. But after that, we'll get back to that, I'm sure. You said acquire some indoor plants and open your windows. Absolutely. We've got in our bedroom, because I don't want anything. We don't have anything electronic in there. Not even an alarm clock, nothing. We keep it completely free, but we do have a nice planter in there with a bunch of plants, so that's great. You said plant a garden, a flower bed, a tree, just some individual plants. Then you give a whole little section on doing any of the following in nature. Have you ever looked into sun gazing much?
Yes, I have. In a little bit of my shamanism research, that was a big thing with one of the, I can't remember what tribe. I'm not even going to try to say it and be wrong. But yeah, that was a big thing of their meditation visualization was sun gazing. And I've tried it on occasion, and some days I can barely keep my eyes open because it's so bright, and other days I can really get into it, and it's really interesting if you're able to get into it.
Yeah, no, it's something that I haven't done yet in any kind of scale. I mean, I've done it a time or two, but need to do it more because I've heard a lot of good things about that. So yeah, one thing that I heard you mention today, and I wrote this down and I didn't write anything about it, and I can't even remember I think you were talking about the coronavirus, but can you explain to me the difference between sympathetic mode and parasympathetic?
Oh yeah,
think
that
I
was,
missed-
that was in one of my videos.
Yeah, I
Yes,
think I missed what
so
you were talking about.
that goes back to like the fight, flight, or freeze. That is your sympathetic nervous system.
Mhm.
So whenever you're super stressed out and in fear, your body's in that sympathetic nervous system, and I can't remember the specifics because it's been so long, and I kind of have gotten away from memorizing details now. So I'm really kind of bad at explaining stuff like this,
Right.
like technically. But so that would be your sympathetic, and so you want to get back into the parasympathetic mode, which the director of IIN, where I went for the health coaching, Joshua Rosenthal, he explained it as sympathetic as fight or flight and parasympathetic as rest and digest. So whenever you're in that parasympathetic mode, you're relaxed, you're able to fully rest, your body's able to heal, it can get back to operating the way it's supposed to, and not be on overload all the time, which a lot of the stuff that comes with overload is, inflammation in places and
Right.
excess cortisol in your system. And that's another thing that I thought was awesome that Sophia was talking about the other day, was it's like inflammation itself is not the enemy. Inflammation is an awesome process that our body does. It's just the constant excess chronic inflammation, when it's all the time and you never get a break from it, that's when it really becomes a problem and really wreaks havoc. But the actual inflammation itself is there to help you. So that's another thing, man. Certain things in the health community get a bad rap. Like even when going back to food, like carbs, carbs are the enemy. Carbs are fruits and vegetables along with a lot of other things. It's like you need that. So don't just label carbs as bad. Same with fat, man. There's so many healthy fats, but there was the low fat craze. And I feel like all these different crazes, in the long run cause more problems than solutions. And, even if someone does have some success off of one of these plans, they don't know what to do afterwards. So, really, I guess what I'm getting at is just really be careful not to make something good or bad like that until you really find out.
Right. Well, I think we have to turn the negatives into the best positives we can. I don't remember where you talked about that in the book, but I remember reading it at some point. Another thing that I read at the beginning, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you about this, but I noticed you lost your father.
Yeah, man. He passed away back in December of 2005.
Okay.
Yeah, he had hepatitis C and died very slowly over like 10 or 11 years.
Oh, geez.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was no fun. So it was one of those, when we lost him, it was obviously tough, but it was also a relief too,
Yeah. So how old was he when he died? Pretty young then?
Oh, man. Let's see, 57.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, see,
I think.
I lost my mom in November, and she was 66. And, to get through that, I think there's so much, you have to think positively. And so one of the things you talk about in your book is being gracious, being thankful. And that's really what got me through it, is
Awesome.
having to just be constantly thankful for everything, all the time I did have. And she was so awesome, and all the things that she taught me and everything that she gave to me and passed on to me. Because otherwise you can go crazy over an event like that. You really could.
Man,
I could be
definitely.
bogged down. I could just be a hermit and shut it all in and say, what is this all worth? Why are we here? What difference does it make?
Yeah.
I could go through all that, but at the same time, you can try and do the best. And I'm not saying it's easy, and I'm not saying, it's just simple. You just turn a negative into a positive.
Right.
But really, you have to do that. So
yeah, you really do. It is.
Right.
It is tough, but yeah, man, I remember, just some of the talks my dad and I would have, and just he was so freaking goofy. So I mean, just thinking about a lot of the stuff, man, it definitely helps. But then also thinking, he's not having to dwindle away and day by day anymore. So
right. No, the other day, I don't know what I was watching, but there was, some old lady sitting there crying in pain over something. And, just made me think, oh my goodness, I never had to watch my mom cry in pain. Just didn't have to see
That's
it,
awesome.
And so you have to look at the positives. Again, it's not like saying, oh, I'm glad she's not here. I'm glad she never got old. No, it's not that. You just have to look at the positives of every situation. I remember reading that in your book. I don't remember where it is. I can't find it right now. But you talked a lot about that it's, you have to find even in negative situations, there is positives to be thankful for. And I think you have to
There's
live
always
life that way.
lessons to be learned.
Right.
And different thoughts to have. And I mean, and obviously you're going to have the thoughts like, my dad passed before any of his grandchildren were born. So, none of his grandchildren were knowing. It's like, that's a bummer to think about, which you're going to think about. So it's like, you have to accept, those thoughts are going to come, but, just don't stay there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. They're going to come, but you have to look for the positives that can be. And, I'm sure he taught you a lot, and those, things that he taught you, you're going to instill in your children, and you can take that positive out of it. So, you just have to, there's always going to be negative things in your life. In fact, there's probably negative things every day. And if you focus on that, then I think you'll live a very miserable life. It's very easy to live a miserable life that way. But if you look at it the other way and you try and flip everything around, that's really what makes you a better person and can really change your life.
Absolutely. And I don't want anyone to think that I'm talking about like bypassing issues here, because it's not about that. It's about really seeing everything and being okay with everything, but really allowing yourself to get on to the more positive. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I didn't think you were doing that. I just didn't want anyone to misinterpret that.
No, and I'm not doing that either. I understand. Believe me, I had to go through my my moments as well. But I can just look back now and say what brought me out of those moments. It was always turning it the best I could into a positive, and seeing the brighter side and trying to look forward and thinking about what's ahead and not always dwelling on what happened. Right? It's like what's going to happen. What things can I do to change tomorrow? How can I make tomorrow a better day than today? And if we all thought that every day, I mean, that's really kind of what encompasses striving to live the spiral life, so.
Absolutely. Yeah. And same goes for worrying about the future, those crazy things that happen and you can never plan on.
No.
So it's like, why are you going to worry every day about this stuff that you're never would ever be able to guess what happens?
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it definitely goes both ways, man. You got to stay in that present moment as much as you can.
Right. Well, I appreciate you being on. I mean, do you have any questions for me at all, or is there anything else in the book that I missed that you wanted to cover?
No, I think we covered the book plenty. Yeah, and I think you did a great job of mentioning a lot there. I had a couple questions. You actually answered one of them before we talked to the show. I was going to ask you if you had any advice on YouTube and stuff, but actually a question about stars. So what's the closest star to us? I mean, like,
according to them,
the mainstream.
Yeah, they say it's 25 trillion miles, unless you count the sun as a star, which I don't think is true. I think they're very different things. But I mean, because I was on the street asking people one time, what's the closest star? What's the closest distance? They said, well, the sun is the closest star. I'm like, okay, other than the sun.
Right.
But they say 25 trillion miles is the closest star.
Okay, and so through all these years, none of the constellations have moved, right? Is that right, or have they a tiny bit?
Not that we've seen, but I mean, they claim that they all stay together as they rotate, and that they're so far away you would never notice any change. And of course, for years and years, they couldn't find any parallax. But there's some telescope somewhere that they say can find the tiniest little parallax, but you and I would never see it.
Right, and in thinking that way, how would it even be possible to zoom in on stars with cameras the way we're able to? Like, if they're that far away to never detect any of that motion,
I think
we would never be able to zoom in on it, would we?
No, there's so many problems with the stars and the way they've been described to us. And I mean, there's also the whole paradox where they say that there's stars everywhere. Well, if this light traveled forever and the stars are everywhere, the whole night sky should look like the day sky. It really should. I mean, there should just be these bright lights coming from everywhere. Why are there just these little pinpricks and we can only see some? And, of course, they're able to give numbers. Oh, well, some are bigger, and that's why we see them. And some are more bright and they're more powerful, and that's why we see them. And some are so small that we don't see them. But it's all just folklore, for the lack of a better word. Really, they're able to make up anything that they want about the macro. They're able to say anything that's going on up there because you and I can't go do it. And then by making these huge rocket companies and these huge organizations and SpaceX and making it so expensive, I mean, they say, to launch this satellite is $300 million. Okay, then pretty much anybody, has no way of ever verifying anything that they're saying. It's just a big power organization, and they've been doing the same thing since the 50s, basically, which is just lighting a bottle rocket and seeing where it goes. And we've seen where it goes. It goes up, and then it arcs over, and it disappears from your sight, and then they make up a story about where it goes.
Right.
It's like, oh, well, that actually went here, and then we show you the scene change, and now you can see the view from the, and it's just all such bullshit to me. And until it's proven, I don't see a reason to believe it. And like you said, I'm not able to tell people this is exactly the way the Earth is set up. This is exactly how it works, because I don't know. But when something doesn't fit, and their model certainly doesn't fit at all, it just makes no sense to me. And I don't know how anybody who believes in a creator believes any of the nonsense about these other planets, other galaxies, how far the distance are, the known universe, and we're the only life on this tiny little speck of dust. And the people on that speck of dust, they know how long the universe has been here, and they know that the dinosaurs were here 65 million years before that. And when you look with our little glass telescopes, we can see back in time. It's all such nonsense. I mean, and that's really the belief. I mean, even the stars that we see, you have to remember, the star that's 25 trillion miles away is 4 light years. So with the star light that you're seeing emanated 4 years ago, and there's stars out there that you can see that are 16,000 light years away, and those stars that you're seeing, that light is 16,000 years old. It's all such storybook nonsense to me. So
it's a lot of it is really, really hard to swallow. Yeah, and it's equally hard to even have a conversation just out of curiosity. That's another thing that kills me about this topic is it's like not even many people even want to just have a curious, interesting conversation about it. Like not debating, not like that. Just talking about it. It's like I asked someone about the Nikon, the P900, whenever I was, very first looking at this and seeing all these observations and stuff. And I was just asking them because they were into photography. And just the question just tailspinned into this big triggering. And I was just like, I'm just asking what you knew about this camera and if you had looked into this. And so, just even the slightest mention seems to really, really trigger people.
Yeah, no, it's totally frustrating, and it's hard to believe that you can't even discuss a topic, or you can't even get into that line of communication. I was telling people the other day that back right after the conference this year, InfoWars approached me and said, would I be interested in working for them? And I was like, oh, wow, really? Like, this is my, I've been doing this YouTube thing. I've never thought about it becoming some sort of career like that. But you start thinking, you're like, man, I could see that. And they're like, yeah, just submit an application. We just need to see your resume and then show us some work that you've done. And the only other thing is that if you came here, you can't talk about Flat Earth.
That was a stipulation.
Yep.
Wow.
So you can tell how quickly I sent my application and resume. I didn't.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Because that just there's so much of a problem with that for me. And it's just like, what are you talking about?
And stuff like that should be huge red flags for people.
Right.
And it's not even saying like, oh, you have to believe in Flat Earth because of this. It's just saying, open your eyes. There's a problem here. Making stipulations like this, censorship being so huge on certain things. It's like that should open people's eyes just a little bit.
Right. I can't even talk about it. What are you talking about? If I just make a video saying, here's some interesting points, here's some interesting things, this is what we've been told, and it doesn't seem to match up, you're not even allowed to say that. So it's kind of what I was talking about.
Like a more like non-biased, just a more comprehensive research that shows how these other documentaries are depicting the real flat Earth research incorrectly. Even if you came from an unbiased position like that. That seems messed up.
Again, the biggest thing for me, it's why I'm on TFR, it's why I do this, is because I want to be honest and authentic. And when you start dictating what I can and can't say, that's obviously not honest and authentic.
Yeah.
That is contrived and ordered, and it's just completely different. It's not why I'm on YouTube. I'm not on YouTube to have people tell me, here's what you can talk about, here's what you can't talk about. Here's the topics you can cover. Here's what you can't cover. Here's a position you can take, but you can't take the pro. You have to take the... Well, then that's not for me. That's not me being honest and authentic. I'm just giving people my honest opinions. People can take them or leave them. But if you're not even allowed to do that, that's what happens when you reach the mainstream. And if even the so-called truth networks don't allow you to be honest, then I think we've got a uphill battle. And that's why I do what I do. I'm just going to continue talking about how I feel. And so, everybody, that's Josh Brown. He is the author of The Spiral Life. As I said, the links to his channel are in the description. His links to his website, which is thespiral.life. Let me bring that up one more time. And then if people want to get in contact for possibly a consultation, what's the best way to do that? Through your website and maybe your email?
Yeah, either that email right there if you just want to go direct, or if you want to go through my site and check out my site and go through there. I mean, it will still come to that same email address. So really, either way. But if you go through the website, I think it's the contact is the link or the tab,
Yeah.
and that's a way to contact me about pretty much anything. But yeah, that if you we can just mention that you'd like to do a free consultation, and we'll hook up.
Cool. And then subscribe to his channel. And like he said, he's going to be doing some more, videos. And yeah, one of the questions, like he said, he was going to ask me, and he asked me before we went live, was just some advice on YouTube. And I'll give the same advice to anybody, which is you may not think that you can do it, or you don't really understand how to do it. And I just say, get some images together, get some free video making software. I don't know if Windows Movie Maker is still available. There's other free ones out there. I use something called Magix. Or it's just called Magix. What is the website? It might be magix.us. I don't know what it is. Anyway, Magix Movie Edit Pro is what I use. It's like $50. I've been using the same version for like 3 years. Before that, I used Pinnacle, which is terrible. I don't recommend that one. But it's just easy to kind of grab some images, throw them together, make your own images with some sort of free program, and then just talk about how you feel. So I'm looking forward, Josh, to you making some more videos, because I really enjoyed the coronavirus one, and hopefully to see you more on YouTube.
I appreciate it, man. That's definitely the plan. I'm also like you. My videos are. It's just me sitting there talking, because that's more of a live feel.
Right.
So that's definitely the direction I would rather go. Like once I'm able to go live, that's not. I'm not going to say that's all I'm going to do, but that'll probably be the majority of what I do is just little live stuff. So it's just spur of the moment.
And my only
But
recommendation
is there a cutoff on that or something?
For what?
For like how many subscribers you have to have or something to
go live? I think it's 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah, that's to go live from your phone.
Oh, okay.
I'm not positive if anybody can go live from like OBS. Like if you're looking at my screen now, you can see I'm doing OBS. But I'm not sure exactly how many. I don't remember. But yeah, you can still, like you said, do the video just live like you did, but just turn it to landscape.
Yeah, that was funny, dude. I can't remember what show it was on the other day, but you said something about, the video was in portrait. Oh, it was those joke videos you were showing, and I was like, oh, I'm pretty sure mine were in portrait.
Right. Dave Weiss won't watch anything in portrait. He says it's fake. So
that's hilarious. Well, I'm going to make a landscape one just for Dave.
Your current videos right now are fake. They're CGI.
Yeah, obviously.
You're a crisis actor using landscape mode. I mean, using portrait mode. So, yeah. All right. Well, that's about it, guys. Thanks for joining us. It's going to be Iru, I believe, next week, as long as he's feeling better. Hopefully, Iru's back for tomorrow. Join us at 12 noon Pacific. That'll be for the lounge. If you want to support my show, you can do so easily at patreon.com. I've kind of gotten kicked out of the other areas. You can't use Amazon anymore. You can't use PayPal. But you can still use Patreon for now, patreon.com/jeranism. That's the way to do that. If you want to send something through Venmo, my username is @jeranism there. And then also in the description of this video, there's a couple links if you want to support Josh's work. There's a Patreon there, which is, I think it's patreon.com/thespirallife. Hopefully.
Patreon is /Josh Suga, I believe.
Okay, that's right.
Like the band Meshuggah, but Josh Suga.
Got you. And that's in the description, so if people want to do that. And he's got a PayPal still, so if you want to send him a PayPal, that's paypal.me/thespirallife, I believe. Right? Did I get that one right?
Something close. I think it may just be Spiral Life and not the Spiral Life.
See, I'm screwing it all up there.
Well, I mean, just the availability of names, it's kind of all over the place on my stuff.
Right. I got it. And if people want to mail me something, you can still do that. I believe the post office is still delivering mail, although that's probably the next thing to shut down. No more mail. There'll be no more mail. You got to do everything digitally because the coronavirus is going to come take you and kill your grandparents. So P.O. Box 3044. They need to change
the saying to rain, snow, or coronavirus.
Right. Exactly. P.O. Box 3044, Merced, California, 95344. Any final words, Josh, before we go, or is that about it?
No, dude, I just want to thank you again for having me on. It's a huge opportunity, and thanks to everyone that tuned in to listen. And I just really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, guys. Go out and get the book if you thought it sounded like a good topic. It's cheap, $12.99. It's a good read. And if you're home doing nothing anyway, hey, why not read The Spiral Life by Josh Brown? All right, guys, it's been fun. We'll see you tomorrow for the Friday Lounge. Appreciate everybody watching, and thank you for the super chat. See you guys tomorrow. I remind you to do your own research, because when you do, you'll never again believe what you've been taught. Till next time, this has been Jeranism. Peace.